That monkey with coordinating outfits, and I was like, I would love to be part of the show, but I can't act with a monkey.
Please say hi to Stephanie, it's my girlfriend.
Hi, Stephanie.
Thank you
You
so
should
much.
leave him.
For years, Blake Lively was Hollywood's golden girl, but now the internet's convinced she's been playing a part, and the truth underneath isn't so pretty. For more than a decade, Blake Lively seemed untouchable. From Gossip Girl fame to red carpet royalty, she built a brand on effortless charm, quick wit, and that fairy tale marriage that made every headline sparkle. But behind that picture-perfect image, something darker might have been brewing all along. It all started with what looked like harmless fun, sarcastic jokes, offhand comments, a little teasing between interviews. But lately, those moments have started to look different. Fans who once adored her are now replaying old clips with fresh eyes, realizing that what once sounded like confidence now feels cold, detached, even mean. And the tipping point came during the It Ends With Us press tour, where one viral interaction after another painted Blake less like America's sweetheart and more like someone who's lost touch with the people cheering for her. A friendship bracelet declined, a fan gently hushed, a co-star visibly uncomfortable. Small moments, sure, but when stacked together, they tell a story that's hard to ignore. Now the question everyone's asking isn't whether Blake Lively had a bad day, it's whether this is who she's been all along. Because when you trace the pattern, from her casual jokes to the awkward interviews that resurfaced, it starts to look less like coincidence and more like a personality that's finally slipping through the cracks.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. I'm gonna put it here because it doesn't go with my outfit, but I will wear it later.
Hollywood loves a polished image, but when that shine fades, it's the internet that decides what's left standing. And right now, Blake Lively's fans are wondering if the person they fell in love with was just another character she played. The downfall didn't start with a scandalous headline. It started with a smirk. During the It Ends With Us press tour, Blake Lively's every move was supposed to reflect elegance and control. Instead, it turned into a slow-motion PR disaster, the kind that makes people rewind clips just to confirm they really saw what they think they did. It began in London, where a fan offered her a friendship bracelet, a simple, heartfelt gesture. But instead of gratitude, she brushed it off with a laugh, saying it didn't match her outfit. Sure, she was joking. Maybe. But the moment landed wrong. Her co-star, Isabella Ferrar, graciously accepted her bracelet without hesitation, instantly winning the crowd. Blake, on the other hand, seemed more focused on her look than the love her fans were trying to show her. The internet didn't miss it. That one tiny moment turned into a symbol of something bigger, an actress who's grown too comfortable treating her audience like accessories. Then came the next clip, crowds calling her name outside the theater, phones raised, excitement filling the air. Blake turned toward them, only to motion for silence. The crowd froze, unsure if they'd done something wrong, and in that brief, uncomfortable pause, you could feel the shift. It wasn't admiration anymore, it was confusion, disappointment, the kind of silence that says, "We thought you were different."
And then I got a few of them.
But the internet doesn't forgive easily. Those short clips turned into compilations. Compilations turned into theories. Suddenly, fans were connecting dots from old interviews, remembering other moments where Blake's sense of humor had crossed the line, like the time she told a supporter to dump their boyfriend as a joke, or when she called her Gossip Girl co-stars monkeys in an offhand comment. Individually, they might have seemed harmless, but together they painted a picture of someone who's been getting away with this for years.
And maybe that's the part that stings the most, because Blake wasn't just another celebrity. She was supposed to be the exception, the witty, self-aware actress who never took herself too seriously. But now, that same wit feels like a weapon, one she's been using with a smile for far too long. Even her co-stars have started to look uncomfortable around her. In one interview, Brandon Sklenar, who plays her romantic lead, looked checked out, barely answering questions until Blake pushed him to compliment her. When he didn't take the bait, she laughed it off, but you could feel the tension. It wasn't chemistry, it was pressure. The Blake fans thought they knew is slipping away, and what's taking her place is a version that's harder to root for. The kind of star who doesn't just shine under the spotlight, but burns everything too close to her.
It was just a conversation starter. You know, she was sitting there, I think she was probably 8 months.
At first glance, Blake Lively's charm always felt effortless. Quick wit, glowing smile, a little sarcasm to keep things real.
But when you replay her interviews over the years, that playfulness starts to sound different. The same confidence that once won over audiences now feels like control, a constant need to steer the conversation, to make every moment about her, even when it shouldn't be. Take her interview with Norwegian journalist Kirsty Flaw back in 2016. What should have been a light, friendly chat turned painfully awkward.
Oh, just,
Toothbrushes for gastrointestinal?
yeah, I guess which way it kind of, if you're
But
maybe
where does the toothbrush go?
Well, if I'm, if
Kirsty tried to keep things upbeat, but Blake's tone was clipped, her jokes barbed. When the reporter congratulated her on her pregnancy, Blake visibly tensed up, deflecting with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Later, Kirsty admitted she'd been too embarrassed to even share the footage, until now, when fans started pulling it up as evidence that the sweet girl persona might have always been an act. But that's not even the worst of it. In another clip, Blake mocked an interviewer who admitted she was lactose intolerant, tossing out a joke about how humiliating it must be. The audience laughed nervously, unsure whether to join in or cringe. And when the interviewer revealed she needed tablets and a toothbrush afterward, Blake doubled down, turning the awkwardness into a punchline. It was one of those moments that exposes how detached a celebrity can become from ordinary empathy. And it didn't stop there. In another press appearance, she jokingly scolded a male interviewer for not bringing her a gift, then shut him down when he made a clumsy joke about pregnancy cravings. Instead of letting it go, she used the moment to lecture him about how women's bodies shouldn't be trivialized. On the surface, it looked like a feminist mic drop, but people who watched the full clip noticed something else. How quickly she shifted from victim to authority, twisting the moment to keep the spotlight exactly where she wanted it.
An advantage.
Is she?
Totally.
Oh, please say the
It's not
no, Blake.
necessary.
Please tell her.
You can exploit it if you want. Cravings, nah.
It's not that Blake doesn't have a sense of humor, she does. But it's the kind that punches down, that takes someone's discomfort and spins it into entertainment. In a way, that improvisational streak she prides herself on has become her biggest liability. She once admitted she improvises in everyday life, even in serious conversations with her husband, Ryan Reynolds. And maybe that's the problem. When you're always performing, you forget how to read the room. Even her co-stars seem to struggle with her energy. Some say she pushes for attention, interrupting answers to redirect the conversation, or fishing for compliments mid-interview. Others just go silent, waiting for her to finish. It's not malice, it's dominance. The kind that comes from years of being told your words are clever and your smile is currency.
Something that I still use on my day-to-day life every moment. I mean, improvisation is something that just when my husband and I are having a conversation, trying to make each other laugh.
And while fans used to excuse that behavior as confidence, it's starting to sound more like entitlement. Because every time Blake jokes at someone else's expense or downplays a serious question, she chips away at her own authenticity. The mask doesn't just slip, it cracks. And what's underneath isn't cruelty exactly, it's something more unsettling: indifference. Blake once said she never takes herself too seriously. But watching these moments unfold, it's hard not to wonder if she takes anyone else seriously at all. Every celebrity misstep tells a bigger story, and in Blake Lively's case, that story is privilege disguised as relatability. For years, her brand has been built on effortless elegance, the dream life, the perfect family, the Instagram aesthetic. But lately, that same image feels less like authenticity and more like insulation. Because when real-world consequences knock, Blake always seems to walk away untouched. One of the earliest cracks appeared long before It Ends With Us. Years ago, Blake proudly told a story about how she landed a singing role after her parents paid off the director, laughing it off as a cute family anecdote. But for people who've worked their whole lives chasing opportunities they could never buy, it wasn't cute. It was tone-deaf. That confession alone said what her PR team never could. Blake Lively doesn't live in the same world as her audience, and that same detachment seeps into her business ventures too. Her sparkling clean brand, Betty Buzz and Betty Booze, was meant to showcase her entrepreneurial side. But even that turned controversial when fans realized she was selling alcohol she doesn't even drink. Critics called it a cash grab, a brand built on vibes, not values. Her Instagram post promoting the line was polished, witty, and perfectly color-coordinated, but the comments told another story. People accused her of using moral neutrality as marketing, and maybe they were right.
Then came the incident that really made people question her judgment, the royal family Photoshop fiasco. When a heavily edited photo of Princess Kate went viral, Blake joined the trend, posting her own photoshopped image to plug her cocktail brand. At the time, it seemed like harmless fun, but when the truth about Kate's illness surfaced, the post aged like milk. Blake deleted it, apologized, and tried to move on, but the damage was done. The internet doesn't forget, and this time the joke had crossed the line into cruelty. Still, none of these moments hit as hard as her public support for some of Hollywood's most controversial men. When asked about Woody Allen, a director still shadowed by disturbing allegations, Blake brushed it off, calling him empowering to women and admitting she hadn't read up on the accusations. She said it was dangerous to factor in things you don't know about, which sounded less like caution and more like willful ignorance. And it wasn't an isolated statement. Before Harvey Weinstein was convicted, Blake described her experience with him as always respectful, following it up with a vague, "It's devastating to hear about the allegations." Technically, she didn't defend him, but she also didn't take a stand. To many, it sounded like the kind of neutrality that protects careers, not people. The irony? Blake's public persona has always leaned on female empowerment, uplifting women, owning your voice, choosing kindness. But behind those slogans lies a pattern of selective empathy. She champions causes when it's convenient, but avoids controversy when it costs her something. Whether it's working with brands accused of exploiting children or staying silent until the backlash is too loud to ignore, her timing always seems suspiciously strategic. Even her wedding, once framed as a fairy tale, ended up as another PR nightmare. The venue, a plantation in South Carolina. It took years and heavy public pressure for Blake and Ryan Reynolds to apologize for romanticizing a site of slavery. They called it a mistake, but when you look at the larger pattern, tone-deaf jokes, blind spots, selective remorse, it feels less like a one-time lapse and more like a worldview. In Hollywood, image is everything, and for someone who built hers so carefully, it's wild how quickly it's starting to collapse. Because at the heart of every controversy, every awkward clip, every headline, every apology, sits the same truth. Blake Lively doesn't realize how much she's revealing when she thinks she's in control. The internet doesn't wait for a publicist to spin the story. It writes its own. And once people started piecing together Blake Lively's pattern, the verdict spread faster than any PR statement ever could. The woman once celebrated for grace and wit had become the latest case study in how quickly the court of public opinion can turn. But what makes this one sting deeper is that the backlash didn't come from haters, it came from fans. The same people who grew up idolizing Serena van der Woodsen now feel betrayed by the actress who played her. To them, the cool girl act has lost its magic. The charm that once felt effortless now reads as arrogance, and the humor that made her interviews so viral now lands as mean-spirited. She hasn't done anything catastrophic, no crime, no scandal, just a long string of moments that add up to a character people don't recognize anymore. And in today's world, that's enough to sink even the most polished brand. Clips from her "It Ends With Us" interviews are still making rounds, analyzed like crime scene footage. Body language experts have broken down her posture, her tone, her facial expressions, every detail turned into a clue. Some say she's defensive, others say she's disconnected. But they all agree on one thing: Blake doesn't seem to realize how she comes across anymore. Her co-stars, once eager to praise her, have gone quiet. Her interviews, once playful, now feel tense. And her fan base, once fiercely loyal, is fractured. Half defend her, insisting she's misunderstood. The other half see this as accountability, a long overdue reckoning for someone who's coasted on privilege and good PR for too long. Even the movie's own promotion became collateral damage. Instead of headlines about her performance, the press tour turned into a slow leak of awkward soundbites and viral side-eyes. For an actress whose career has always thrived on likability, that might be the one thing she can't afford to lose. But maybe that's the irony of fame. It gives you the power to speak freely, but also the platform to be exposed by your own words. Blake's problem isn't that she's cruel or careless, It's that she's human in a world that expects perfection, and the cracks in her facade just happen to be playing out on camera. Still, it's hard to shake the feeling that something shifted permanently, because once the internet decides you're not who you say you are, no apology can glue that image back together. Blake Lively's story isn't over, not by a long shot, but it's no longer the story she was writing. The actress who once embodied grace under pressure is now learning, in real time, what happens when the pressure wins. And maybe, just maybe, the world isn't watching to see her fall. It's watching to see if she ever figures out how to rise without pretending to be perfect.